So this is a commercial loan scenario, and specifically this one in particular that we're going to be talking about today is dealing with startups. So it's a startup operation or startup business. Then what process do we go through, and what information we try to gather, and then what are some of the particular things that we're really focusing on in order to deliver something of value and delineate whether we can, do the deal or not. So Dan, I guess my first question is what's sort of the business scenario? I guess if you want to just give me kind of a snapshot of that.
Yeah, so we were actually referred a client from a realtor in the Valley, and she's looking to lease a building that is about 4,200 square feet, and it would be for a mixed-use property, really, and that includes a business diaspora collection is the business type. Now,
Okay.
she's looking to lease the building in order to implement the startup. She's going to she looks to have a restaurant, retail, and also like a communal space, something that they could have community events and also just kind of showcase the items as well.
Got it. So it's going to be, so if I'm understanding correctly, just to recap then, she's leasing a building, she's running a startup business, and she's going to be building out for a restaurant, and you said like sort of a retail center, is that right?
Yeah, retail.
Okay. And in a diaspora, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay. So then we understand a little bit of the collateral, what we're going to have. So we're talking about assets. So that's the first piece. We always kind of just saying what is the synopsis of the deal, but then what is the collateral we're sort of dealing with in it? What it sounds like, we're dealing with a leasehold improvement. We're going to have probably equipment, is my guess in this. So purchasing new equipment, and then the other element that's really, really important on the asset side when you're dealing with a startup business in a lease situation is if he or she has any outside collateral. Okay, so I want you to think about that for a minute. So do they have any real estate collateral that they have equity in, because high probability that that's going to be taken as a lien, okay? So that's the first sort of asset-based thing that we're talking about here in terms of collateral, okay? The next piece that we're dealing with is urgency. So why is it that she needs to do this deal, or why is it that she's doing this deal? What's driving her to, moving her to do this?
So what's moving her to do this is the fact that she needs to secure financing before she can commit to the lease on the building.
Okay. And then that's the question. You may not have this answer right now, by the way, which is totally fine. But the question we're going to keep pressing is, so why is it so important now? Like, that's the question that's coming out of your mouth. Like, why now? Why is it so important? Why do you have to do this? Another way you can get at it is, a synonymous term you're looking for in this stuff is urgency, but think about the second synonymous term, which I've talked about a lot and I will talk about a lot, which is commitment. So, if somebody tells me I've put in, $200,000 into this project so far, guess what? I've got somebody that has urgency, they're committed. Those two go hand in glove. Because there's something about them that says, I really need to do this. This is really important. There's something driving and motivating that person that's really important. Because if you don't have urgency, you don't have a deal. Because then it's like, the gal I called today, she called me off online, her and her husband, they want to refinance to get a better rate. And she just flat out said, because I press into it all the time, I'm like, do you really need to do that? She's like, well, it's just, there's more important things right now. It'd be nice to, right? Done, right? It's just not that important. It's nice to, but it's not there. So urgency is a critical part on every single deal you're talking about, because if it's not there, you're just going to be pushing the rope, I guess is a better way to put it. Okay, so then the second thing we always do every single time is loyalty. So the question is, and again, you may not have this answer, is who else is she talking to?
She did say she's working with another bank. However, she was unable to secure the loan that she was looking for. They keep passing her around. So that was another question that came to mind.
Great. And did you happen to find out who it was by chance?
I asked her the name of the bank, and she had to dig for it. So I don't know who this bank is.
She said it was that's okay. That's good. So one of the things we do always is that we ask the same question, which is loyalty. And what we're trying to find out there is, hey, I've talked to 5 other banks. Red flag, right? Like going around town. Okay, not something we're looking for. Yeah, I'm talking to one other bank. Okay, so what did they say? So it's a great question because you're saying, well, what did they say that, really at the end of the day sort of, is feedback? Well, they said they don't think they could do it. Well, okay, do you mind me asking why? Yeah, they just, I said there was no cash flow. Now I'm starting to get a picture here of what's going on, right? And as opposed to me reinventing the wheel, if they're running into an issue, we want to find out real fast. So that loyalty piece comes with it some information that we might not have gotten as well. But it tells us, hey, they offered me 3% fixed for 10 years, ... Well, you know what my next question is? Why are you taking that? Right? Well, I just want to see if I can get a better deal. Well, you can't, right? I mean, or whatever that is. But what we're doing there is we're finding out if we legitimately have a shot at the deal, or if we're just wasting a lot of space and air, right? If we're sort of this, cog in the wheel that people can, just go through, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we're trying to gather that information so that we really understand what's going on at the end of the day. So just think about that, in that conversation and in that context, okay? Then the third thing, by the way, I'll hit the pause. Do you guys have any questions about what I've said so far? Okay. Austin, you? Okay. So then the third thing is viability. Okay. So viability is dealing with, does the deal actually make sense? Think about this, cash flow. So you're physically saying, it's a startup, so we know there's no historical cash flow. We're not dealing with, but you can say, do you have another job? Are you married? If you are married, does your spouse have a job? Yes, he makes $150,000 working for Intel, whatever. Okay, great. What about cash? Do you guys have any cash? Well, we just found out she has $280,000 worth of cash. That's great. Okay, so someone's got some liquidity. That starts to tell me a story. This person saved money. This person is ready and thoughtful. They have liquidity. There's something that they can bring to the table other than just a pie in the sky idea. So we're looking for viability on cash flow, and we're looking at on cash. We talked a little bit about collateral. That's the other C, to say, is there sufficient collateral? Now here's the deal. Collaterals on most startup businesses, they have to have 20%. Equity in their real estate, and because they're probably going to take a lien on that real estate, the SBA. If we end up doing an SBA loan, which 95% of the time you do an SBA and startup, period. And so essentially, you're going to find out So you go through all those C's. So cash flow, cash, collateral. Now we're talking about credit. What's your credit like? Did she mention any of that?
She said she's in the 700s.
Okay. She's got a 700 FICO. Now I'm going to push a little bit on this. What else do we want to know other than FICO score? So remember, I've hit on it a bunch of times. So you've got.
Oh, more like foreclosure.
Yes, exactly. So BK, foreclosure, short sale. You have to be specific. You'll always hear me say this: specific is terrific, vague is the plague. So ask specific questions. Have you ever had a bankruptcy, foreclosure, short sale? Are you in a lawsuit? Okay, very important for you to ask that question, because everybody says, "Oh, I got great credit." Okay, great, and then all of a sudden they go, "But I filed a bankruptcy 3 years ago." They just had that happen yesterday. And if I wouldn't ask that question, it would never come up. So you have to ask that question. Yes, I did. Well, what happened? Because that could kill the deal, like immediately. So you want to know that. And then we have to get information on it in order to see. Because remember, it's 5 to 7 years. We're kind of in the ballpark. So once you do that, now we're in a position to say, okay, the final C in that viability is this: credibility. Did somebody just wake up, go to a Rich Dad Poor Dad conference, and then go, you know what, I think I want to go buy a ginormous thing, or is this like, hey, I've been in the industry for 15 years, I've got a ton of experience, and great, okay, or like kind experience, and that'd be exactly. But I did a car wash deal in Colorado probably 7 years ago, and the guy, no car wash experience, was going to do a new car wash, but he had been in the vending business, so like vending machines, owned a ton of them all over the place. So there was some crossover stuff just on how he worked, customer service, and et cetera, et cetera. So we were able to get over the hump. But credibility is just a critical thing you have to have. So that viability piece has to be there. You've got to have at least, call it, 3 out of 5 to even go to the next step. Because, if somebody doesn't have the cash flow, credibility, collateral, you're probably dead in water. So on a startup, she has cash. I'm like, perfect. Cash flow. You definitely want to ask if they got another job or something, or somebody that they're married to does, or if they have a partner. Because if they have outside income, that's like a big deal, because the lenders are going to go, it's a startup, for crying out loud. How are you going to afford to pay all these payments? And then, collateral, that always helps, because you just, remember, every single lender does the same thing. It's risk. Everything's risk. So you're just trying to mitigate risk. And that's how we do it on those 5 C's. Once that's done and you go, okay, we can move forward, then now you're basically in a position to say, okay, I got enough information to really say, is this something that I can proceed with? So here's my assessment at this point. She's got some experience. She's got some cash. I would want to know if she has cash flow, it's outside income. I could potentially be difficult. Credit's fine. If she has collateral, then I'm going like, okay, we're definitely probably okay. If she does, she has none. Could be iffy, okay, because you're an airball. So because what I'm about to recommend has to happen in order for it to get done, because it's projection-based deal. So it's going to be SBA, period. It'll be a small business administration loan. It'll be a 7A loan, which we have other videos that'll talk about that, so I'm not going to spend the time on this one. But it'll be a 7A loan, 7 to 10-year deal. They'll fund 75 to 90% of the total cost. They can include working capital in it. They can include the equipment. So if you remember, 7A, it's all encompassing. So it's like the whole enchilada. They can do everything: real estate, BizAc, equipment, all those things are baked in. And so that's the product that you're going to use. That's the lane you're going to go down for what you're going to recommend. And she'll say, well, what is the terms on that? Well, 7A is always the same on startup, no real estate collateral type of deal when you're going into a leasehold. If she was buying a piece of real estate, it'd be different. But for leasehold startup, there are 7 to 10 year amortization. It never balloons. It's fully amortizing. It's based on prime. She'll probably be maxed on prime. So prime plus 2.5 to 2 3/4. It's probably floating. So it's going to be floating rate. So talking, 3.25, 4 5. So, probably 6% ish. Somewhere in that ballpark. Points are, min 7,500 for us, or whatever that amount is, 1%, 2.5% on the actual fee cost for SBA loans. That's how much they charge, and then some other ancillary fees like appraisal, environmental, phase one. Well, probably won't be a phase one because there's no real estate, but appraisal, valuation, etc. So what you're recommending to her is she's going to have to put projections together. 12 months, month by month, and then another year, just full year projection. She's got to have a business plan, period. And we can offer sample plans, etc. But has to have a business plan laid out. And once you get all that information, and even their tax returns, personal financial statement, business plan, all the forms that come with that, debt schedule to see what their debts are. And then that will give us the sense for doing that. I will tell you, we can do startups, but if they don't have the majority of those components we talked about, it's probably dead in the water. I'll tell you on this one with a restaurant, it's probably not going to get done at right now. Maybe at a different time, we're in COVID, it's probably not going to happen. It's just restaurants are, they're not going to happen. So my recommendation would be, hey, you might want to hit the pause button for a little bit, get your feet, just get some things prepared, and then maybe after the first year, if they have a vaccine, you can revisit it. But I wouldn't spend the time doing it, quite candidly, right now. I think you just need to sort of, maybe we can refer to some people, but that would be the recommendation, to somebody, because restaurants are even established right now, unless it's like a quick service restaurant, like a Culver's drive-through or something like that, like a Mr. Mesquite, which we're looking at that one too. I wouldn't waste the time. I think that would be the recommendation I would give to them. If you can't do it, giving them advice, here's what I would do, here's how you get it done. If you wait a while, or maybe negotiate something with the landlord to self-finance you, and then you can kind of come in later. So that's sort of the commercial loan scenario for a startup with no real estate, in that kind of restaurant-ish industry that we have. So